Episode 11, A Split Team. Chapter 11, A Split Team.
I heard from a friend that you wanted to fuse yourself with a demon, correct? That's right. You're brave to even consider such a thing. But you would first need to find a demon who would be willing to fuse in the first place. Yeah, that's a problem. I don't have the program. My friend does, but he might not listen to me. Some demons get along with humans better than others. Say, how about I introduce you to a creature that your ex reminds me of?
There was something odd about that man. Jin wasn't sure what it was. He looked like he could be a movie star, especially with that blonde hair and his incredible sense of style. And yet, something felt different about talking with him. Jin had felt a lot more at ease talking with him than he normally did with someone he had just met, with only Kazuya coming close to that. And Lewis had an enthralling way with words, enough to where he remembered the feeling of being honestly listened to over what exactly they had been talking about. After watching him disappear into the halls of Wino, Jin said, "Man, what I wouldn't give for an ounce of that guy's pizzazz." Tch, tch. Next to him, a massive scorpion with layered red armor nipped the pincers in front of its mouth together. It then nudged his arm, surprisingly affectionate. He could think of a lot of people who would be frightened out of their wits at the sight of this demon, especially with the wicked-looking black axe on its tail. But Jin really liked this guillotine scorpion. And it was his demon. He didn't have any program or charms, or any of that nonsense. This demon was simply his willing follower for anything. Yes, anything, including fusion. Now, where was that place here?
He probably gets all kinds of girls not wanting to let go of him,
Jin said, talking with the demon as it walked alongside him.
A fair amount of guys as well, to be honest. Lucky bastard. But oddly nice, he seemed like he actually wanted to help me out.
After some searching, and a lot of people avoiding coming across him and his demon, Jin found the entrance to the heretic mansion. It was obvious when he recalled Kazuya saying that it was an otherworldly place that put entrances where only summoners could see them. And since he now had a demon, he didn't need Kazuya to point out a door that he would have missed. The graffiti was a good indication too, since it seemed like it should stretch across the door.
"Hello, and welcome,"
the owner said, coming out from messing with bits and pieces of his technology.
I don't recognize you, but I feel like I should." "Does it matter?"
Jin asked.
"You're the fusion guy and I want some fusing done."
He smiled at that.
"Yes, you're at the right place. Now, what do you have in mind? You have quite a rare specimen already." "Yeah, but I want to fuse myself with this guillotine scorpion,"
Jin said.
"Really?"
He rubbed his chin.
"Theoretically, it would be possible. I've done animal and demon fusions that have gone off just fine, if very much erratically compared to the data I'm getting from demon to demon fusions. A human and demon fusion, that should prove interesting. But, fusion cannot be undone, so are you absolutely certain of this decision?"
He nodded.
"Yes, I decided on it yesterday and nothing I can think of would be a better way forward for me." "All right, then let's go ahead. I have no idea how this will feel, so I would much appreciate it if you gave me a rundown of the experience afterward. Please step onto the circle there, and place your demon there." "All right, do as he says,"
Jin said to the scorpion. It clicked its pincers agreeably, then went into place. Jin followed suited. Finally, this should allow him to be his own person. Not who his parents wanted him to be, not who his stepfather wanted him to be, not his teachers or the other gang members, or anyone. He'd be his own person, able to make his own way himself. He'd be like a jinn with the power to do whatever he wanted, including granting wishes or curses to others as he pleased. But there was something he had to do, and it had to do with Kazuya. A heavy presence left her mind, letting Yuka awaken. Her head hurt, she wanted to grip it, but her hands were tied down. Her legs too. Why? This wouldn't be easy to escape. She looked aside and saw her friend Mei kneeling by a young man sprawled out on the floor. Wait, his face, she had known that face all her life.
Kazuya,
she said, then tried to slip out of the bonds. Just one wrist, then the rest would be easy.
What's going on, Mei? Yuka, you're awake.
She got up and was quick to undo the latches.
Sorry, you were possessed by a demon we couldn't identify. We had to restrain you.
Yes, but that's Kazuya, she explained as she held still to be freed. Mei would know who she meant.
What happened to him? I had a funny feeling about that,
she said.
But, well, he was trying to talk to you, then all of a sudden he got flung back. I think the demon moved into his mind. But, he hasn't been thrashing around or crying like you were. He seems very serious somehow.
Yuka crouched by Kazuya, looking him over. She was right, he looked highly focused, like he was taking a test or facing a strong enemy. Yet he didn't react to outside stimulus, not even when she caressed his cheek. It hurt so much, finding the man she had been searching for her whole life only to have him put himself in danger to save her.
What happened?
A priest said, coming into the room with another young man. He looked faintly familiar, but not to the degree that Kazuya was.
Father, Yuka's been freed, but this man is possessed by the demon now,
Mei said.
No, he's got it trapped inside himself somehow,
Yuka said.
Do we know where the psycho diver is? He might be able to help. We don't call on psychics who won't acknowledge God,
the priest said.
But we don't have anyone in the church capable of mind dives to call out stubborn demons,
Yuka said. She had wanted to learn, but was denied the chance.
Yeah, and we had no progress on trying to get it out of her,
Mei agreed.
This man doesn't look like one of us, so it shouldn't be a big deal if we call on that guy to help him. We don't really want someone like him in our working space,
the priest said, then shook his head.
Well Yuka, I suppose you can do what you want. I would suggest you report in to the cathedral, given that your task is nearly complete. Father?
She asked, surprised. They kept asking her to identify the church's Messiah, thinking she'd lead them to such an important figure. But she couldn't come up with much more than what the books of prophecy already said.
If it's not so, you'll still be doing better things there than hanging around here,
the priest said. Then he turned to the other newcomer, this one wearing the robes of a Messian mage.
Alan, I'll go retrieve the soul incense and be back to accompany you to Roppongi soon. Don't worry, I can make use of the terminals. Thank you, Father,
Alan said, bowing his head. Other than the faint familiarity, nothing struck Yuka as much important about him. Perhaps he was one of Kazuya's friends, also transported from the past? He turned to them.
I'd like to help Kazuya, but there's something really important to me I want to get done in Roppongi. I heard that the psycho diver was in Shinjuku, but due to certain reasons, I can't go back there, especially not on my own. You should be fine if you can use the terminals, just as long as you don't mention us.
Did the priest think Alan here was the Messiah? So, she had brought him to them because he had been accompanying her soulmate? She tried not to show how she felt about that. After all, Alan wasn't responsible for that and he seemed nice enough.
I can handle myself, thanks. But how can you use the terminals?
May asked.
I might be able to use his comp,
she said, placing her hand on the machine on his arm. She knew that it was very important to him, something he made use of constantly.
I'm sorry Kaz, but I need this to help you.
She detached it from his arm and set it on her own. It seemed like a bulky thing. How did he wear this constantly? The straps and latches weren't used to being on a smaller arm, so she had to make sure it was snug. Then she opened the lid. It asked her to press the wrist part close to her skin. Hopefully this worked. After a moment, the comp beeped. A message rode across the screen. Hi Yuka. If you're seeing this message, I'm sure you must have a good reason to be borrowing this from me. It's fine, just don't mind me teasing you to get it back. I love you. Kazuya.
Oh wow, it really recognized you,
May said, smiling brightly.
Then he's definitely the guy.
She smiled some.
Right, I knew it the moment I saw him. I just wish it hadn't been like this. May, do you mind taking care of him? I'll try to be back with the psycho diver as soon as I can.
Her friend nodded.
Sure, leave it to me. I just hope I don't have to tie him down too, he seems strong. I'm sure he can keep the demon trapped, but I have to hurry. Thanks May.
She excused herself to the others and hurried out to the terminal. As Alan walked back through the halls of Roppongi with the priest, he felt tense and wary. He didn't want to say out loud that he was worried about running into a little girl, but she had unnerved him from the moment he set eyes on her. There was something about her that felt evil, something made worse by how innocent and sweet she acted. Thankfully, she must have been busy at some game elsewhere in Roppongi. They ran into no one until they entered the disco. Everyone here was enthralled by the music, dancing away and talking in disconnected ways. It might fool someone, it had almost fooled him, save for a feeling he always got around demons. Knowing that all of these people were dead, it felt like a mockery of life and all that was good. At least the zombies barely paid attention to them.
Here she is,
Alan said as they entered the small room off to the side. It looked like a patient room in a hospital, with a white bed and charts depicting something about her condition. Only a red line on the floor indicated something that the demons couldn't cross. Yuka herself was distracted as she had been the first time, murmuring her prayers to herself.
Yuka. Alan.
She looked up, seeming normal aside from the daze she was in.
You're back. How did it go? We can take care of you,
the priest said, sitting on the edge of her bed.
We'll put you to the rest you deserve. I'm sure God will reward you for your dedication all these years. Thank you,
she said in a small voice, stretching her legs out instead of having them curled up against her chest.
I don't want to be here any longer.
Alan sat down on her other side, his feelings all twisted up and painful. He wanted things to go back to how they had been, but that wasn't possible. She'd only suffer, even if he could get her across that line and out of Roppongi. For now, he took her hand.
You'll be fine, you'll be in God's arms.
His vision blurred with tears and he squeezed his eyes tight, not wanting to weaken like this. He didn't mind so much with Kazuya since he never gave him a hard time about it. But he always feared getting another angry lecture from the priests over something he couldn't really help about himself. At least this one couldn't know about his mother and bring that up too. The priest brought out an incense ball in a cone, a familiar scent coming off it. He went to light it, but the ember went out as soon as he took the lighter away. After a few more attempts, he cupped the ball in his hand.
The powers of undeath are strong here. They're fighting the incense's power.
Feeling something like the times when Haniel spoke to him, Alan reached over.
May I try, sir? If you wish,
he said, offering the incense ball and lighter. The cone was already stuck to a pin. Letting go of Yuka for the moment, he attempted to light the cone. He prayed silently, "Please, God, extend your love to those here who suffer on the brink of death." The flame stuck this time and he was able to close the ball to keep the cone caged. He was going to hand it back, but the priest stopped him.
If it lights for you, why don't you try the ceremony? I'm not ordained, Father,
Alan said.
I did memorize some prayers, but that was for a school project. I just thought I could light it. Go ahead, you were granted blessings from an angel,
he said.
All right.
He caused the ball to swing gently in front of Yuka, then recalled those Latin phrases and prayers that he had learned. He wanted this to work. He wanted to release Yuka from her suffering, even as it caused him to suffer. But then, he could heal and move on. She couldn't. The scriptures had that wisdom within them. Alan hadn't been sure if he could get the prayer right. But a couple lines in, he felt something fill him with a feeling of brilliant radiant light. It made him feel far greater than himself, like he could see all of the undead wandering these halls in an ignorant dream. They didn't realize that they were mere puppets of demons, kept moving purely for their entertainment. At least Yuka still recognized herself as Yuka. Those bodies were empty of souls, the souls fueled the shield that supposedly kept this place safe. Out there, the people dancing in this disco suffered as well, unable to know why they suffered. He wanted to release all of them from this vile mockery.
Thank you, Alan,
his Yuka said, briefly sounding happy like she used to whenever they could meet up. And then she was gone with the rest of them, at peace with death. The light left him then, leaving him feeling cold and empty. He nearly collapsed onto the hospital bed, but the priest caught him. Outside of the room, the music stopped. Everything stopped, it became still and silent.
My word,
the priest said in awe, carefully taking the incense ball before it slipped from Alan's hand and started a fire.
Young man, you've done a miracle. Have I?
He asked weakly, trying to sit himself back up on his own. He didn't realize that a prayer of any kind could be draining. He glanced aside and saw a pile of ashes. In a blur of weariness and grief, he reached for a ring that was there. It was a friendship ring, she had said, with her best friend at her school. They had been wearing them for some luck charm that she'd only laugh when he asked her what it did.
That prayer is only meant to send on one lost soul at a time,
he said.
But you have put all the lost souls here at rest. I would not be capable of that.
The soul incense was helping him to revive from the feeling of being drained. But this emptiness, her loss, it couldn't help with that.
God acted through me,
Alan said, feeling like he should be more impressed or awed. Instead, he wasn't feeling much of anything.
And you bear a holy sword that is capable of cutting down cursed darkness,
the priest said.
With all that evidence, I believe that you have been called to be our Messiah. What, me? Be but.
Wasn't he unqualified for such a lofty position? He had been dating an outsider, even if it seemed she had successfully converted. And he was of low-born birth, with no special talents. He had had to work hard for his grades and then was incredibly lucky to get Haniel's blessing to be able to fight demons. He cried too easily, wasn't as confident as other guys, and didn't know enough to be a teacher of God's ways. He wasn't anything like he had imagined a Messiah being.
I'm just lucky that God would work through me. No, it's clear that you've been chosen to have him work through you,
the priest said.
Or else you would not have been able to do what you have done. We have been eagerly awaiting your arrival in the world, Alan. The Grand Cathedral waits for you, where you will invite God back into the world to reign as its rightful king. I will.
He wasn't sure if he could believe it, but
that it would be a great honor, Father. What is going on here?
One of the demons in human guise demanded from the doorway. It was the black one, still acting prim and proper even if his eyes were narrowed in fury.
What have you done with everyone? We've freed their souls from your evil designs,
the priest said, getting hold of a silver crucifix.
You've committed a serious crime in our town and I will not go lightly on you,
Mr. Black said. Ghastly hands suddenly snatched into the room and everything went blurry with pain. He died. No. No, he couldn't be dead. There was still something he had to do, something about Kazuya. Yuko left the terminal room in Shinjuku and felt a sudden disorientation when she walked out. She knew she had lived a past life, but had only remembered things that had to do with Kazuya. Times in high school together, times they had been playing with his dog, cooking together for holidays when his mother had been ill. Being here when he finally showed up, that powerful connection when they first met eyes after becoming true soulmates. That it had been here. She knew this place, even though her Messian teachers never let her leave Shibuya, save for trips to see the cathedral under construction. While she knew she needed to find the psycho diver, she found herself drawn to a stairway off to the side, with a label marking it as staff only. It was a very old sign, barely readable. Yuka went down there, the familiarity becoming less strange as it continued. In her past life, she had worked here. She couldn't quite recall what she had done, but it was probably more interesting than being a sequestered prophet. There was a growl further ahead, a demon was here. But, Kazuya was a summoner, she knew that. But would his summoned demons respond to her? She opened up the comp's lid and found that the summoning program was already active. He had several, but an angel and dervish stood out to her. She summoned them both.
You're not Kazuya,
the angel said, her words running across the screen.
But I can sense that you're his soulmate. Yeah, that's blindingly obvious,
the dervish said, starting to twirl in place.
Yes, I'm Yuka,
she said.
Kazuya's in trouble. For the time being, I need your help to help him. Will you work with me? You're not a proven summoner, much less the one we made a contract with,
the angel said. Then she smiled.
But for the sake of Kazuya, I am willing to protect you.
The dervish nodded.
Sure, until he can fight again, I'll fight for you. Thank you,
she said, bowing to them.
Something's ahead, that's why I called you. I'm not defenseless, but I'm not about to take things alone. That would be wise, we want to return you to him safe,
the dervish said. When they moved ahead, a patchwork creature identified as a chimera stood in their way.
Hey, nobody comes down here but Ozawa,
Chimera said, its goat head speaking in a rough tone she could understand without translation.
Or, are you here on Ozawa's orders? It's about time to feed me and the crazy psychic.
This could be fortunate, if this was the psycho diver.
I'm not, but I will see the psychic,
Yuka said. If it wasn't psycho diver, then a fellow psychic could locate him.
Humph, nobody sees him. You looking for a beating? I'll beat up you if that's what it takes,
Yuka said, unafraid as she drew her sword. Her Messian teachers had taught her how to fight demons, although it was only so she could join patrols to keep Shibuya safe. And that only because she had been a restless girl always getting into trouble by being where she wasn't supposed to be.
"Ha, you, some girl?"
Chimera asked smugly.
"Fat chance of that happening, not even with your demons."
It then roared with its lion head and breathed purple smoke with the goat. Yuka was quick to strike the goat head, while Dervish moved in with his twin swords to slash up Chimera's snake tail. The angel hung back and supported them, making sure their wounds got healed. As Chimera had no such supporter, it was quick to fall under their attacks. A keychain was all that was left behind.
"Thanks, guys,"
she said to Kazuya's two demons as she retrieved the key.
"By God's mercy,"
the angel said in human words, while the dervish just grunted. She walked through the familiar halls, momentarily stopped when she recalled a time that Kazuya had been in her arms, in tears. He had lost his mother and his loyal dog, leaving her as all he had of his previous life. While he was a strong man, he was also human who had every right to grieve and feel hurt. How long had it been for him since that time? She would still comfort him, she knew him already, and knew that he would understand how she was. At the end of the hall, they came across a room that had been transformed into a cell.
"You bring any booze today?"
the man inside said, not bothering to get up.
"No,"
she said.
"I brought the keys to your cell. Are you the psycho diver?" "Of course, who else would be?"
He had fumbled out of bed in his ragged clothes, but stopped suddenly on seeing her.
"Wait, you've never been around here before. Good lord, you've got some incredibly bad mojo going on. What's going on, miss?"
She unlocked his cell first.
"I'm Yuka, from Shibuya. Until an hour ago, I had a demon trying to take over my mind, apparently one called Arachne. I don't know how long I was out, but Kazuya, my soulmate, he lured the demon out of me and trapped her in his own mind. Please, I need your help. I don't know if he can defeat her himself, I must go into his mind to help him." "Huh, well he'd have to be something really extraordinary or very well trained to kill a demon within his own mind,"
Psycho Diver said, rubbing his shaggy beard.
"And your bond as soulmates is true. You two would find each other over successive lives out of love for each other. Unfortunately, that's a problem when one of you is suffering so badly. He must have been in a lot of pain trying to reach you. And if you don't act fast, that'll happen to you and you'll both succumb to the demon. But, it's gonna be a headache getting to Shibuya. Ozawa shoots people who try to escape and he sees me as a valuable tool he can't lose. This is Kazuya's comp. It can activate the terminals to get us instantly to Shibuya,"
Yuka said, tapping the device.
"We just have to sneak you a couple doors over to the terminal once we get upstairs." "Great, I'd be happy with any means of escape,"
Psycho Diver said, grabbing a bag before heading out of the cell.
"Let's scoot, I don't want to be here any longer than necessary."
Yuka nodded, glad he was willing to hurry in spite of just being released. She felt like some people might have seen them in the hall. But if they had, they didn't have the time to alert Ozawa and his men. They were soon back in Shibuya and Yuka led Psycho Diver upstairs to where Kazuya had fallen. He was still where he had been, still focused on his battle. Mei was there too.
"He grumbles occasionally, but hasn't moved at all," she said.
Kneeling down by him, the Psycho Diver put his hands over Kazuya's head.
"Normally I'd charge a pretty penny for this, but being made free in such an interesting case is enough. Yikes, this guy has one hell of a will. I can tamper with the demon's existence enough to make it easier to kill her from within, plus backup is something he'd appreciate. You might want to lay on the floor or bed here. Since this is your first time diving, I'll draw you in when you're ready. Be ready for a fight the moment we get in." "Got it,"
Yuka said, then laid herself down next to Kazuya to be near him.
Okay. Here we go,
Psycho Diver said. The world went wavy like when she used the terminal. Before long, it settled into misty blue hallways.
Whoa, incoming.
He ducked behind her. She drew her sword, which stopped a freakish spider lady from crashing into her.
You!
She shrieked.
Look, I'm sorry. You soul just seemed so tasty, but his soul would be valuable to the angels or the demons, so I could. I'm sorry, would you please let me go? This guy is a real hero, he's terrifying.
She quivered and put a pair of legs over her eyes.
No, there's no way I'm giving you the chance to bargain away Kaz's soul,
Yuka said, attacking the demon. A gunshot came from further down the hall.
Yuka!
Before long, he was on the other side of the demon.
Kaz, I brought help, we can take down the demon for good,
she said, making Arachne wail.
Good.
Between the two of them, Arachne fell quickly.
Nice work, kids,
Psycho Diver said.
Now I know you're probably eager to do some reunioning, but we ought to get out of his mind quickly so you both can wake up. Her influence is disappearing rapidly, you both should be fine before long. All right, see you in a moment,
Yuka said, smiling at Kazuya.
Sure,
he said, smiling back and seeming relieved to see her again. It used to be that Yuka had been about a year older than him. Now she was just 19, a few years younger than him. She was also much more versed in the Messian teachings than she used to be. But at the core of her personality, she was still the same person. Kazuya was as comfortable with her as he had always been.
I feel like I've failed Jin and Alan,
Kazuya said, since it was just the two of them now.
They were both looking up to me and I wanted to mentor them. But things have moved too fast and now they've split off in their own directions. They couldn't even learn to get along with each other. But they're still alive, right?
Yuka asked. He shrugged.
Hard to say, but I'd hope so. As long as they're alive, you still have a chance to reach out to them, she said. If you don't give up on helping them, they'll have to recognize that you care for them too. I hope they do,
he said, feeling better at the reminder of that.
There's also something that I need to do in the world, why I came back. Well, other than to be with you again.
She laughed at that.
It's true. Anyhow, I'm still not sure what it is I should do. So I'd like to go around Tokyo for a while, see what can be done to reunite its people. Ideally, I could do that with all of Japan, but I'll focus on Tokyo for now. I still have to figure out the situation here in this time, though I'm gathering a larger picture. I was sequestered here, so I only know of what's gone on in Shibuya and with the church,
Yuka said.
They're about ready to shift the cathedral downriver, since it's structurally complete. Move it downriver?
He asked.
From the impression I got talking with everyone, it was going to be a massive building that could be visible nearly anywhere. It's being crafted with an artificial island, she said. I don't know the specifics, but it's supposed to miraculously appear one morning to all those who don't know about it. They've even got terminals and walls set up so that the non-trusted workers don't even know where they are when they arrive on site. They all think they're making smaller buildings, but it's a plan designed by a brilliant architect and engineer they've had in hiding all this time. That sounds like a complex layer of deception for making a miracle occur,
Kazuya said. Yuka nodded.
But it is to be the throne of God, so it must appear to be like an incredible miracle to persuade the indecisive. I learned quickly to be careful about questioning these sorts of things, even though I kept thinking deep down that something didn't add up about everything going on around me. One thing I found out is that angels need to be called into the world just like demons. In fact, they're just like demons in many ways, although everyone would strongly disagree with me on that. I can command the angel I have just like the demons,
he said. Then he got a message.
Hang on, this is from Stephen, so it could be important. The mystery man who wrote the demon summoning program?
She asked, intrigued. He nodded and let her look over his shoulder to read the message with him. Kazuya, it's good to hear from you again. With fewer devices capable of my program around, there are fewer summoners than we would like, and the forces of demons and angels are growing powerful. But I think there's still a chance for humanity to thrive without relying completely on either side. As for your mystery demons, a few powerful ones have proven capable of obscuring their data from summoners. But they're not completely uncrackable. I have retrieved some of the data on Mr. Black, actually Neberos, and Alice, should you encounter them again. In this case, I should give you a warning about Alice in particular. She reads as being of the fiend class, a particularly powerful bunch that can prove surprisingly difficult even compared to demons that appear to be on equal level with them. Attempting to battle her now would prove overwhelming. However, she's also recorded as having an amicable nature, so avoiding battle should be simple in her case. I won't expect any other fiend to be so obliging. From Stephen.
Should we avoid Roppongi then?
Yuka asked. He had to consider that.
That'd be smart. But then, I promised Alice something when I didn't realize she was a demon. And I'm sure Alan went there since you said the priest left with him. We can see if we can find him, and then I'll keep my word and try to end things at that. I see. Well, the priest let me go as the church's prophet, so I'm free to leave with you. I think I should pick up a few relics before I leave for good, though. They'd be helpful in dealing with the demons. Like the gushing jar, it traps demons inside and can act like a temporary summoning contract. The officials say they'll sell the jars, but they price them so high to outsiders that nobody will actually buy them. That'd be good,
he agreed.
Some demons don't respond to negotiations at all.
Since they knew Yuka, it was easier for them to get the Messians to sell them more exclusive items like the gushing jar and some rosaries. Much of it still wasn't going to be useful to Kazuya, but Yuka could make use of them. The shopkeepers also talked more, warning them to avoid areas with heavy Gaian influence like Ueno, Destiny Land, and Ikebukuro. As for their plans, Kazuya felt it would be better if they came across as unaffiliated demon hunters while they went to investigate the rest of the city. End of chapter.